Hi, this is Michelle from Layers of Learning. I'm talking this time about how to actually teach a unit. So there are 3 essentials when learning a unit. The first is the library list. This is where your kids are getting their facts. This is where they get the basic information. You go find books at your library, and you can use the ones that we recommend, or you can use the search terms to find things that your library has, because our library list may not match what your actual library has on its shelves, and that way you can, it's really flexible. You can use what you like. Along with the library list, I'm going to include videos, because videos are also a great place for facts, and we link all of our Layers of Learning units to videos. If you go look at the catalog where you buy the units, each unit has its own page in the catalog, and we link there to YouTube videos. We have YouTube playlists, and we also have websites that you can link to, that are linked to, that you can see there. So the videos and books are going to be where you gather your facts for whatever topic you're learning about. My kids are starting ancient China right now, so while they were coloring their map of ancient China, they also were watching a video about it. So we kind of combined the first 2 steps in one right there, but often we'll just read a book, or the encyclopedias that I showed you. If we can't find a book, we'll read through that. And then the second step is the explorations. That's the bulk of what the unit books, the guidebooks that we wrote for Layers of Learning, the bulk of it is spent on explorations. And you saw me picking through explorations when I was planning a unit with my sons. We were deciding which ones they wanted to do and which ones they didn't. Sometimes they want to do more than in other units. It just depends. Sometimes we only spend a week on a unit, and other times we spend 2 or 3 weeks. Depends on how into the explorations they are and how much time I think that they will take. After we've chosen which explorations to do, I will either make printables, if they're printable things, or sometimes I have to go get things at the store. And if I have to do that, I will put the items on my list, and then I plan to do the exploration after my next shopping trip, so that I don't have to rush to the store just for a couple of things. We live about half an hour from the nearest store. We're out in the country, so it's really impractical for me just to run in to get stuff. So the explorations are what you're spending most of your time on. We tend to combine the library list and the explorations, the fact gathering and the hands-on stuff, into the same time period. We'll watch videos while we're working, or I'll read to the kids while they're working. But I also will assign them to read books on their level. They will do that reading during their reading time. So they might read a book about ancient Chinese art during their reading time, and they're reading on their own. That's where we add in the age level stuff. So my youngest children, I'll be reading aloud to them. My middle grade kids and my high schoolers will be reading books on their own level, each of them on their own level during their reading time. That way they're getting information at their, something that they can understand. Also during the explorations, while they're working on some hands-on project, we'll often have discussions. And the Layers of Learning guidebooks have discussion ideas, discussion questions, and topics. After you've practiced doing some of the ones that we present, you may be able to come up with some of your own. It will help you to understand the pattern of how to ask questions that aren't just yes and no, questions that lead into real discussions that are relevant to your kids and their lives today. A lot of times kids complain that the stuff they have to learn in school is pointless, it's meaningless, and it really is. A lot of it really is. And that's because we as adults haven't taken the effort to show them how it really matters. We haven't shown them that what happened in ancient Rome is still affecting us today, and the philosophies that were presented back then are still philosophies we have now, and that they really do affect their real lives. It's important that we show that, and that's what the discussion questions do, I think. The third step is show what you know. And we do that by, partly it's through the explorations. Sometimes you'll have learned a lot about a topic. For example, last week we learned about the Arctic. We read several books about the Arctic. We watched a video about the Arctic. And then I had my kids make a diorama. And I didn't give them a lot of direction. They already knew what a diorama was. And I said, just make one that shows the Arctic, and then you're going to explain it to me. when they're making that diorama, they're showing what they know. They're adding in elements that show what the Arctic is like into their diorama. And then they have to explain it out loud to me. They're showing me, they're telling me, they're describing the Arctic. So then that takes the place of a test in our homeschool. I don't have to give them a test. They've just told me. They've created a diorama and they've explained to me about the snow. They've explained to me about the kind of animals, what the conditions are like. They've explained to me what the tundra is and how they've shown it in their diorama. So all of that is included. Other ways you can do the show what you know step is through writing projects. Writing is really, really important. So you can have them do a report. You can have them write a poem. We give ideas for show what you know in the sidebars. We have writers' workshops, and those make great show what you know topics to head out on. We also do the Book of Years, which I showed you last video. The Book of Years does show what you know because your children draw pictures and write things they learned through the videos or the reading that you did, and then they narrate to you or they write their own information about show what they know. We do the same thing for science, and Karen has one for art. I know I'm more into science, Karen's more into art. So this is a family book. We do it all together. This isn't one, each child doesn't have their own. They do it jointly. So they each drew some of these planets when we were learning about the planets, and then they told me about them. And as they were talking, I was writing and putting notes in about each of the planets and what they were like. So over here we have Pluto. They wanted to add Pluto, even though it's no longer a planet. So we wrote no longer a planet, frozen and tiny. We just put a few facts about each one. Garrett says it is a planet. He's rebelling against the establishment. And here's one about motion. So we did an experiment, and here I wrote in the experiment. I did the writing, but they told me what to write. So they dictated to me, and I wrote it. And this shows the experiment that we did. We made hovercrafts. And then they drew a balloon to show how the balloon is like the hovercraft. I don't know. And then here's another experiment we did. The boys made a marble roller coaster, and so they drew a picture of it, and they talked about what worked and what didn't on their marble roller coaster. So that's a couple of different ways to do show what you know. We like illustrated fact sheets a lot. It's just a single piece of paper. We have a post about it on our website. It's a single sheet of paper. You draw pictures and you write captions, similar to what I just showed you in the science book there. But each illustrated fact sheet would be individual, so each child would make their own. They can also just do things like taking notes. You can do quizzes. There are fun quizzes that are games, and Karen has a whole bunch of ideas. Again, there's a post about that on our site about quizzes that are games. Lots of different fun writing things, and then all of this stuff that your children make, whether it's the maps, the printables, a project that you take a photograph of, their quizzes, writing assignments, all of that will go into notebooks that you create for your kids. My kids have one notebook for all 4 layers of learning subjects, and we just have dividers. So we have a 3-ring binder, and inside the binder are 4 dividers, one for history, one for geography, one for science, and one for art. And all the work they do is put into those dividers. So if they write a poem, it's going to go in the art section. But if they write a poem about Petra, ancient Petra, it would go into the history section. So whatever topic we're doing, it's their finished work is going to go into their notebooks. That way you can go back and look at the notebooks. You can every now and then review what they've learned. You can show off their cool work. You can point out to them, I loved that you did this. This is so fun. And what was your favorite part of this? And it will help them to remember. And it also creates a record. A lot of places you have to have a record showing what you've done in your homeschool. That's what the binder does. It becomes your record. So I hope that helps and gives you some ideas of how you're supposed to use the layers of learning when you're actually teaching it. You begin with the library list, then you do explorations, and then you show what you know. So those are the 3 major steps to using layers of learning. And I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.